Cool. Welcome everyone to this session. It gives me great privilege to be here, chatting, breaking business analysis bread with you, drinking from the same cup of knowledge. I want to talk very briefly today about a topic that is very dear to my heart. Execution and strategy. But before that, just to further introduce myself, I've got experience around business transformation, project management, business analysis, and so on and so forth across North America, Europe, and Africa. I've also had the opportunity to work in consulting, management consulting, technology and all. And currently, most recently, I founded 6 Growth Inc. And that's really what I am pushing and driving right now. I know few people here, few people I don't, but I don't want us to do some sort of introduction. So there's this exercise that I always conduct that helps me to understand the composition of the audience. Because I understand fundamentally that one of the elements of human productivity is relationship. But underneath that, there's a lot of diagnostics, and most of those diagnostics are not statistically significant. So it's not so much about the quantity of people or relationship, but that quality. And for me to be able to present in a way that you like it, I really want to get to meet you. And the way that I will do it is by a simple exercise. So I'm going to be dishing out some instructions to you. Please follow. If you've got a pen and a paper, if you're not going to use it again after this, this is one place to use it. So grab a pen and a paper and write 1 to 9. A pen and a paper. 1 to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What I want to do, though, is a quick psychographic profiling of this audience. I want to understand the composition, the profile of the people that we have here, the 20 people that we have here, just so that I can tailor my presentation to meet your personality or your preference. So 1 to 9. I want to believe everybody is done writing 1 to 9. The next instruction is try and add the numbers that you have written. Try and add them without using ChatGPT, by the way. So just add the numbers. I'll probably give like 30 seconds for this one. All right, so hopefully everybody is done. All things being equal, you should get 45. If you didn't get 45, don't say anything. Don't say anything, right? Just check it again. There's a mistake, there's an error. If you didn't get 45, don't say anything. Just check it again. Everybody probably got 45. I'm gonna keep an eye on the chat. All right, awesome, nice. So this is where the analysis, this is where the assessment comes in. Potentially, there are 3 categories of people that we can have in this audience. And I want to use your route to 45 to do that analysis. There is a category of people here that arrive at 45 by adding the numbers serially. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9. That's how you got 45. If you are that person, just put in the chat 1. 1. Just put in the chat 1. Okay, so the priest, Aaron, absolutely. All right. Mutiat, absolutely. So let me tell you who you are. Potential. Oh, Beverly, of course. You are a process-driven, methodical, step-by-step individual. That's who you are. You are the kind of person that will be planning your trip and will create a process flow for that trip. All other things being equal. That's who you are. Very process-driven, very methodical, step by step. You are the type of person that will want to send a mail, an instruction to someone, and you put it in a flow. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. That's who you are. All other things being equal. So these are the people that will want to come to a presentation like this and will expect the presenter to start with the objective and the course outline and the flow, and then we'll wrap it up with conclusion and recommendation. You are that kind of person. The second category of people that we can have here are the people that arrived at 45 by looking at the combination of numbers that give them 10. They got 1 plus 9, 2 plus 8, 3 plus 7, 4 plus 6, all of that's 40. And then what's left? 5, 45. They think in tens. They're looking at the combination of numbers that can give them 10. That's how they're wired. If you're there and that's how you got 45, just put 2 in the chart. Oh, Daniel, of course. So Daniel, you are potentially, all other things being equal, you are this kind of person that will not necessarily follow a pattern, that will not necessarily follow a step. You are the kind of person that can jump the queue to be able to get to the front. You are like the big picture kind of guy. You're looking at the end from the beginning. So if you can see the end from the beginning, you won't mind jumping the additional steps. That's really who you are, or who you can be wired to be. So you're the kind of person that you come for a presentation like this, you just want to hear what the guy has done and where he is right now, and then you can map all of that with the theme of his presentation. And then the third category of people that I like to call the mid-rangers. These guys can go both ways. These guys think in fives. They arrived at 45 by looking at the combination of numbers that give them 5. Like 1 plus 4, 2 plus 3, 6 plus 9, 7 plus 8, and 5. We usually don't have a lot of these people, but we can potentially have them. So if that's how you got to 45, Osa, hopefully that's the way to pronounce your name. Osa, absolutely. So Osa can be one of the most flexible people that you can ever get. Also, we get to a compliance, process-driven organization. And within 1 week or 2 weeks, OKR will be process-oriented. And then OKR and Adekunle will leave that organization and get to another organization that is more creative, that is more free. And within 1 week, OKR and Adekunle will adjust. So these are the kind of people that can say, well, if you start by telling me what the objective and the outline is, and we start with introduction, maybe I can get that. And then you get to another presentation and the guy comes from the end and is like, okay, maybe I can adjust as well. I like to call these guys the most adaptable kind of people. So now that I get an understanding of the composition of the audience, I think I have an idea of how to make my presentation. So to appeal to the ones, I want to share with you how we're going to proceed today. I mean, what we want to talk about is aligning strategy with execution. We're going to start by looking at the why, the drivers. And I'm going to explore a few case studies here. Why should we even start thinking about creating a perfect alignment or connection between strategy and execution. But what's making you talk about this topic? And then we move on to focusing on that framework called OKR, objectives and key results. We talk about what objectives and key results is. We look at the components of objectives and key results. We look at the evolution of objectives and key results. And then we'll wrap it up with how. I find that a lot of people know objectives and key results at the surface, but not a lot of people know how to implement or how to really develop effective OKRs. So we're going to look at how. And then hopefully, if we have time, we will share some thoughts like questions, X, Y, and Z. I know that I have just, what about the people that counted from 9s downward? So you are still process driven, kind of. You're still close to the 1s, exactly. You're gonna. Last year, in October, I was in South Africa, Cape Town. I was doing the keynote for the BA Summit with the brothers and sisters in Cape Town. And I was talking about something similar to this. So at the end of the presentation, few days after the summit, they asked us to go to the organizations that are supporting, the business analysis practice or chapter in South Africa. So I was chatting with the guys and leadership, and I was hearing a lot of things, and I wanted to understand if there is a unity, if there is a connection, if there is an alignment between people at the top and people that are on the floor. And I ran a very quick survey. I have the result of that survey in my head, but I want to check with this audience just to see if what I'm going to get here is similar. If it's similar, then it will give credence to my presentation. So let's start. So look at this. You can use your phone to scan the QR code, or you can just go to slido.com and put in the pin. If you scan, it takes you here directly. So look at this question. Think about the organization that you work in. It's anonymous. Your managers and directors and VPs are not here. And let's see what we can get from this. If you know and understand your company's strategy, say yes. If you don't know or you don't understand your company's strategy, say no. If you are not sure if you know it's the right one, or if you're not really sure if you understand it, just say not very sure. So let's do this in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds. All right. Yeah. This is not totally different from what I've seen. Not totally different from what I've seen. In fact, when I ran that survey, I found that, more people voted for no and not sure than yes. But then if you look at the sample set, there's just about 5 people that are here, so it's fine. So this is the first one. The second one is really where I now pinpoint your work. Okay, so it's changing. All right, so it's changing. It's changing. Okay. 50% not very sure. 38% very, very sure. 13% no. All right, so this is not bad. Let's look at the second one. Now, move away from the strategy now. Let's look at what you do. I can see how my day-to-day function aligns with my company's strategy. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so we have yes, we have no, we have not very sure. Okay, this is cool, this is cool. So we've got not very sure. We have 50% that can see. So it's changing, changing. We're gonna wrap this up in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, we're gonna wrap this up. All right. So this is not too bad. This is not too bad. This is actually slightly better than what my experience has been. So I'm gonna take this off now. Everything that I'm gonna be sharing today on this topic, aligning strategy with execution. Everything that I'm gonna be sharing, I have my sources. I'm drawing from my experience working in consulting and advising organizations, leadership, and teams on different matters relating to transformation, strategy, execution, implementation. And a lot of the things that I've seen are part of what formed the theme of this presentation. So that's my first source, my experience in consulting. Second source is my experience working as part of an organization. I used to be the head of a PMO in an investment bank in Nigeria. And there was another department called corporate strategy. And I know what I saw and what my experience was. So I have put all of that into what you're going to be hearing today. And then the third source is the access that I've had to global researches and body of work from other organizations, and also some of the involvement that I've had with those researches as well. So I'm going to be talking hands-on, my experience and experience of other people. So let's start with why. Not because Simon Sinek wrote the book Start With Why, but because this is a great place to start. And my why is going to take us to exploring a number of case studies. The first case study is about myself. Sometime ago, more than 12 years ago, when I left university, I stumbled on a quote by Steve Jobs, that everybody knows. And then it says, here's the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. These guys are not fond of rules. They don't really like rules. These guys have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, you can disagree with them, you can glorify them or vilify them. But one thing that you cannot do is ignore them. Because these are the kind of people that change things. These are the people that push the human race forward. While some may see them as crazy ones, we see them as geniuses. And this is where I picked myself. Because those who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. So I said when I saw that, I wanted to change the world. Fresh out of uni, said I was going to change the world. In fact, when I was getting out of uni, some of my friends would say, oh, they changed the world guy. So my first job was at an entertainment company, Ultima Studios, for those who know. And I was like, oh, yes, I'm going to change the world, and that's really why I'm here. And I started working in that organization, like wants to be a millionaire, project fame, and all of those things. I was doing what I was doing with that goal of changing the world. In fact, there was a time I wanted to become a rapper because I saw the influence that rappers had. A rapper wears baggages and everybody starts wearing baggages. A rapper sags their trousers and everybody starts sagging. I saw that big influence and I thought, hey, maybe I should become a rapper. And I started writing rap lyrics. And I go like, for business agility, the ultimate reality, clarity, we work with supernatural clarity. And I was doing all of that. And while I had the goal, while I had the objectives, while I had the vision, I realized that I did not have something that would help me to track how I am changing the world or how I was moving very close to changing the world. Then I said, oh, no, I wasn't going to rap anymore. And then I said, okay, maybe the next thing is to go and work in consulting. So I moved to a local consulting company in Nigeria. And I said, oh, you know what? The influence that I had here, maybe it's not really enough. Maybe I needed more education. So I went to a business school. And I got an MBA. But I was doing all of these things. But I couldn't track. There was no way to measure how each and everything that I was doing was moving me closer to changing the world. I had the goal, I had the vision, I had the coach, and I want to call that strategy. This is one of the reasons why I think there should be an alignment between strategy, vision, goal, and day-to-day activities. That's why I have this topic, aligning strategy with execution. The second case study, 2 years ago, actually that would be 3 years ago, a company reached out to the consulting company that I was working with. They were having a lot of problems with their results. Consecutively, they were not hitting their targets. They were not achieving their strategic objectives. So they said, hey, you consultants, you've got a lot of experience in working with these guys. Can you come and help us to improve our strategy results and help us to accelerate delivery? And of course, we got in. And as analysts and business analysts, we want to start by understanding the current state and doing some diagnostics. So we met with the leadership of that organization. It was a bank, it's a bank. So we met with them and we said, okay, so tell us, can we have access to some of like your strategy documents and all of those things? And can we have access to like your reports or your results, XYZ? Can we see how you're measuring, those initiatives, XYZ? So we found something. And then we moved to the guys at the execution level. The PMOs, the PMs, and the developers and all of those things. The first thing that we asked them was, on the average, how many projects from this line of business, how many projects did you guys implement, last year? On the average, like 30 projects. That's not bad. That's really not bad. On the average, how many projects would you say were successful? Like 29 of the 30 projects, like 98% success, whatever success means to them. And we found a disconnect. We found a misalignment at the top of the house. We're not achieving the strategic objectives. But at the middle and at the implementation and execution level, things were really successful. That's a problem. That's a really big problem. That's the second case study. In 2022, 2 years ago, another organization in another sector were having problems with employee engagement, employee motivation, high attrition. People were leaving. So as part of the objective of the people division of that organization was to improve employee engagement and employee motivation. And then they called us in to come and recommend initiatives that they can implement, ideas that they can implement to keep people from leaving and to get them more motivated or engaged so that, they can have higher engagement, employee engagement rates. And then we got to those guys and we started engaging with them. And at the end, we realized that initiative wasn't really what they wanted. The initiative wasn't what they wanted, or what they needed was actually something more than that. Now, what did we find from those two case studies? Or maybe my personal. We found first that organizations, more specifically that organization, they've developed very strong capabilities across different functions, but in silos. The guys who were doing strategy knew how to do strategy very well. The guys at the execution level, the PMs and the developers knew how to develop, how to manage initiatives. But these capabilities, these proficiencies, these competencies have been developed in silos. I was once the head of a PMO, and there was another department that was corporate strategy. And you find at times that corporate strategy is not really involving or engaging the PMO. The PMO was always fighting to get into the meeting of the corporate strategy guys. So we found this strong capabilities. Another thing that we found is success of one isn't necessarily success of all. The PMO, in and by themselves, were pretty successful. They had a number of initiatives and projects, and they delivered those projects very well. But at the top of the house, the organization wasn't successful. There's a disconnect. There's a misalignment. There's a gap. There's a big disconnect across board. When we asked the guys, the project guys, so how were you guys measuring the progress? What were the metrics that you were using? We found that those metrics, those performance metrics, were totally disconnected from the strategy of the organization. We found, as a result of that disconnection, as a result of that misalignment, low motivation, low autonomy, and low engagement. What's the result of all of this? Huge waste. Super talented people, but there was no result to show at the top of the house. And the people were tired. And the resources tired. The guys in the PMO will say, we did all of this project successfully. And then at the end, the organization is saying, well, we didn't really make a lot of money, so we can't really, like, pay you some bonus. Like, why? Another thing that we found, 30 projects. 30 projects. And we asked them, what's like your intake process like? How do projects come to you? And how do you know this is the right project to take? Like, well, a line of business head can just come around and say, hey guys, the competitor just launched this thing and I want us to launch it. So there's really no defined intake and prioritization framework. So what did we do? We looked at the organization and we created a very simple alignment design. Something similar to what you're saying. So we said at the enterprise level, at the really, really top, let's try and make sure that we define in clear terms our mission and our strategy. Let everybody in the organization understand that. Because that's where it starts from. Everybody. In fact, we recommended that they do a roadshow to just create awareness and understanding of where the organization is going in the next 3 to 5 years, for example. That's the first thing. The next thing was we did a little bit of, organizational redesign as part of the recommendation. We said, let's have lines of businesses within the organization. We can call them business or groups. And then let's see how each of the lines of business or the vision at the business level define an objective on a yearly basis. Oluyemi, I see your hand up. You've got a question, or is there something that I'm not doing? Okay. I don't know if I should say, but I'll continue if that's fine. So we created, we recommended to create lines of business, and each line of business will define their objective after they've understood the mission of the organization and the strategy at the enterprise level. That tells them what each line of business wants to achieve on a yearly basis. You may want to call that objectives. And then each line of business will have, say, for example, family, kind of call that family. And then the families in each of the lines of businesses will then create what we call key results. Those key results are how the lines of business will measure the progress of their objective. And they're going to do the tracking and the scoring and the measuring on a quarterly basis. And then they have teams in each family, or each market, if you will, or each product, if you will. And those teams will be doing some work. They keep their work in the backlog. They have some initiatives. Now, whenever an initiative comes to the squad, one of the questions that is asked as part of prioritization is, which of the key results can we trace this initiative to? And how will that initiative help to achieve those key results? If there is no connection, it's probably not the right time. So every item in the backlog, every issue in the backlog, every story in the backlog has an impact on the key results for the family. Such that when the squads deliver those initiatives, it will impact positively some of the key results. And if those key results are achieved, some part of the objective will be realized and the organization's mission and strategy getting to their destination. So that was what we recommended. Both operating model, both org design, both structuring and restructuring. But we also have to understand, as part of the operating model, that the organization has teams that are doing two different things. If someone says, hey, what about us that we're not working on initiatives or projects? So we say, yes, we know there are two kinds of work that are going to be done in this organization, in every organization. Some of the work are done to run the business, the RTB, run the business, just to keep the light on, just to maintain the products and the services that they currently offer. Run the business, the operational people. And then there are some works that are targeted at changing the business, improving those business outcomes, improving processes, improving product, improving experiences, and all of this. So we use the run, grow, transform initiative. So that personal experience, the experience of a lot of organizations that have had the opportunity to advise or consult. My experience as the head of a PMO, always fighting to get a seat at the table when strategy matters are being discussed, gave the business justification for why every organization should attempt to create an alignment between their strategy and their execution. So that's the why. And I created those, those polls at the beginning because I wanted to sense, and this is a fairly good audience response, I must say. A lot of people responded by saying, I'm not really sure I understand or I even know the strategy of the organization. Some say, well, I think I know it and I think I understand it, but honestly, I struggle to trace how my day-to-day activities help to achieve the strategy. A lot of people say that. There's an extensive research report that I read from McKinsey & Company. The same thing. A lot of people in different organizations, are not able to trace the result of their work to the organization's strategy. So how do you create that alignment? Let's take a look at OKR. What? So Jane, you've come up. That means my time is up, right? Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap up in 3 minutes, and that means I'm gonna be fast. So you say that again. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I didn't turn on my camera, but I know the time as well. Just
Yes. OKR stands for objectives and key results. Jane shared that. It's not a new framework. It's been around for a while. If you've read the book, Measure What Matters, you probably have come across OKR. It's been used by organizations across verticals, and it's helped them to achieve some sort of results, using Google, Spotify, Walmart, and all of that. So what does this mean? It's literally just a framework that helps an organization to track their outcome. It's something that helps organizations to achieve good results, to make sure that everybody's effort is geared towards the organization's result and direction. Yeah, drop your questions. I want to create some time for questions, actually. So the components of OKR, like O is for objective. That's what the goal that the organization wants to achieve. KR is key results. That speaks to how we're going to be measuring that, the achievements or the progress of that objective. Why should organizations, looking at all of those case studies and what I've just said, why should organizations start thinking about implementing OKR? What are the benefits? Well, it creates a radical mindset shift from just output to outcome. It focuses the mind of the folks at the execution level to results. Because I know that everything that I am doing must align with a key result. So I am not just implementing a CRM. It's an output. I am reducing the time for lead generation. I'm reducing turnaround time by implementing this. It helps to inspire creativity. It helps people to do effective prioritization. If it's not aligned with any of the KRs, it's probably not the right time. Okay, 2 minutes. Just going to skip to how. So how do you implement OKR? Let's do this in 2 minutes, right? Jane, 2 minutes or 3. Okay. Before we start talking about implementing OKR, because I've seen a couple of organizations who've implemented OKR and they're still not getting the desired results. And it's not because OKR itself is not good, it's because there are few things that they didn't put in place before implementing. So I've looked at just 2 things that we can look at that must be available, that must be ready before we start even implementing OKR. The first one is the structure of the team, the way the organization is structured, arranged. And then the second one is governance. For OKR to really be effective, for organizations to really deliver or derive the expected benefit of OKRs, they need to change the way their organization is structured. And there are several ways that organizations can group people. Teams should be grouped around products. That's really how you can measure. We have a lot of organizations right now that are adopting product-centric model. by the way, I'm going to be in Orlando, Florida, BBC, I'm speaking there. And my topic is product-centric organization. If you want to come, you should totally come and we explore this, in depth. Product-centric organization, the path to advancing people and products, or around experience that people have when they engage with the organization or products. Or it can be customer journey, it can be initiative, it can be market, it can be value. Without this kind of structure, without this kind of topology, OKR may not deliver its benefits to that organization, or that organization may not derive the benefit of OKR. And then let's talk about, this is where I'm going to wrap up. Let's talk about governance. Governance, really big. McKinsey did a study. They talked to a lot of organizations and the people in the organization about decision-making, about governance. And here's what they found. Over 70% of the people that responded said decisions in their organization are made at the top of the house. Over 70% of decisions are made by one big guy. Over 70%. More than 60% of those guys said, well, I don't think there is a defined framework for decision making. We don't know. We don't know how they arrived at, let's do this, or let's go here, or let's start this. We just get an email that, guys, we've decided to do this. More than 80% said they are not even involved or carried along in the decision making. This kind of model is called centralized decision making. Should the leadership make decisions? Absolutely. Should the leadership make over 70% of the decisions in the organization? Maybe not. Maybe not. There should be autonomy for the team at different levels. So for OKR to deliver its value to an organization, you need to decentralize decision making. The decision as to which user story should be implemented first should not be made by the VP. Once you set clear key results, that gives the team direction. That gives them insight into what to prioritize and then leaves that prioritization to them. Centralized decision making. This is, the cycle of OKR. I'm just going to wrap up here. We're still looking at the how. In a year, the 1-3-5 method, an organization should have, or a division should have, between 1 and 3 objectives. Not more than 3 objectives. Each objective should have between 3 and 5 key results. What you have next in my side is really like, those stuff, but let's connect. Let's connect online and let's just take the conversation forward. I apologize, this isn't exactly all of the things that I wanted to say, but I'm also mindful of time, and I will pause now and I will see if we've got any question. But I hope this has been valuable to you. I hope you've got 1 or 2 things. I wanted to run this very quickly, but I'm fine to skip this over and let's just have like some chat, discussion, question and answer if anybody's got. So,
thanks, Bola.
Presentation.
Thank you so much for that insightful presentation. Anyone have questions for our, our impeccable speaker for tonight? I told you all that when you deal with Bola, there must always be something to learn. I've also learned something about, as a product manager, I do a lot of, OKR regularly. So I also had some insight as well I've learned from this session today that can also impute in my work and get better as a product manager. So any questions for Bola before he leaves? Any questions? I think Adekole said inside. Okay, sorry, Harry, want to say something?
Yeah, I have a question. Can we give Bola like maybe like 7 more minutes just to, because he has like a couple of more slides or some more things to talk about. I don't know if that is okay.
That's fine by me because I know I'm going to improve. I'm going to increase my knowledge bank tonight. So that's
Exactly. I
fine.
just wanted to like, I know we don't have a poll up, but I just wanted to know because I was so into what he was saying and it just had to stop. And I know we are all learning. So, but I think 7 more minutes would be good. Yes, I second that. Jane is for support of that. So Bola, if you could just have a few more minutes just to like round up, that would be good. So we are not just left hanging.
Exactly. You want to
Absolutely.
take all, grab those knowledge of yours.
Exactly.
Let's start with one of the questions that I get a lot. Oh, but I like now I hear what you said about OKR, but what's the difference between OKR and KPI? I'm going to throw that question to you, and I'm going to hear your thoughts, and I'm going to write on it. OKRs and KPI. Different similarities. Anyone? Okay, because it's just 7 minutes, I'm not going to let anything stop me from using that 7 minutes. So I'm going to bring my slide up and I'm going to continue from there. All right, so let's go. Let's start with writing effective OKRs. We know that O stands for objective. How do you write good objective? Here's a simple template. An objective has the action, the description, and the impact that we want to have. An action is do something. For example, improve. That's an action. For example, reduce. That's an action. What is that thing that we want to improve? What is that thing that we want to reduce? That's what we need to describe. And what's the value? What's the impact when we reduce that thing? That's how to write a good objective. For example, go digital is the worst objective that you can see. When become better. As product managers, as business analysts, we advise leaders, we advise divisional leaders on how to write better OKRs. A good objective must challenge and motivate people. A good objective is qualitative, not quantitative. We are not improving sales by 50%. We're not reducing turnaround time by 25%. That's quantitative. That's more of a result. That's a key result. There is always a connection between the objective and the strategy. If that objective doesn't move the needle in the strategy, the entire work of the team is going to go in a totally different direction. I have like some, tests here. I was going to gamify this. I was going to bring two out and say which one is good, which one is not, but I'm just going to show it to you because we don't have time. Excellent advice, that doesn't really do much. There is an action, increase, reduce, improve. There is a description, that thing that we want that action to perform, and there is an impacted now. So what you have as yays are like the really good objectives. The nays are like go digital, happy customer, become #1 in the world, or cover everywhere you go. Now let's get to key results. Key results are more quantitative. I mean, you have to be able to measure a result. We have an action. A result creates a change. We have the metric and we have the targets. There has to be a number. A lot of OKRs are measured quarterly. So just looking at some, reduce video loading time by 25%. So every implementation, every initiative must align with some of this. Increase total viewership time. Well, how do we know if we've actually increased it? By what? So when you're implementing OKRs, or when you're advising as analysts, as business analysts, as product managers, whether at your product level or across the entire division or product line or segment or organization, when you're creating OKR at the objective level, business analysts ask the leaders this question. This objective that you've just created, does it align to the organization's strategy and vision? Can people read this and understand it? Does it fit into one simple sentence? Is it bold? Is it aspirational? And have you involved people that are within that product line, that are within that division, in the creation or the refinement of the objectives? These are some of the questions that as analysts, when we are guiding the organization or our team in creating objectives, like these are the key questions that we should ask. When we are supporting them in the creation, these are the things that we should put at the back of our mind. For key results, we have 9 key results, 9 KR to one objective, 3 to 5. Can we measure them? Are they quantifiable? And are they time-bound? I mentioned implement CRM. That's output. What impact will this CRM have? Key result must shift our focus to outcome. They should describe the results. So when we did this for the organization, we then configured their tools. So we made it really easy. We then configured their tools. So when an initiative or a feature gets in, it has to map with a KR. Each KR is connected to at least one objective. This helps to score. This helps to measure. This helps to track. This helps even the people at the squad level to see the impact that their day-to-day execution is having at the KR level, at the objective level, and at the strategy level. We had a plan view for OKR and roadmap. We have Azure DevOps, ADO board for features and stories and all. And it made it easy for that alignment to be created, for the tracking, for even prioritization. This is really one way to track that and to create that alignment. So I add here that, okay, you know what? Now that you've heard this, what are you going to do about it? And I wanted to just see if someone can say, oh, you know what? We've been struggling with this in my organization. I haven't really been able to, track how my work is helping the organization. But now that I've heard this, tomorrow I'm going to have a conversation with my line manager. So that was what I wanted to do with this. What? We've looked at why we needed to align strategy and execution, what we can use for it as OKR, and now what? So what's the next thing for you? And that's really what my presentation is. I hope I didn't spend more than 7 minutes that you gave.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Bola. I think it was really worth the wait. Any question? Harry, do you have any question?
Yes, I have one. There was one on the chat, but I mean, it got deleted. But I wanted to ask, Bola, from your perspective, how often do you think OKRs should be reviewed? Now, I know if we do a good job of tracing our OKRs to strategy, as we deliver each result, we know exactly what strategy statement uh, has been achieved. But how often should we review? Should we review every 6 months, every year? I know strategy is usually yearly, but I just wanted to get your view on that.
Absolutely. So I actually had a slide here that I kind of, jumped over the cycle. So we start by defining, the vision, the mission, and the strategy, and then we create that alignment, and then we go into objectives. Objectives, and then we have the key result, and then the initiatives. On a quarterly basis, a lot of organizations have implemented what's called QBR, quarterly business review. On a quarterly basis, we're tracking from the KRs the results, and we're seeing how we're moving close to the end of our objective. But it's also good to understand the influence of market dynamics. At times, market dynamics may require an organization to update their objective. So if we do this on a quarterly basis, it gives us like ample time to be able to know if the business justification for a particular OKR strategy probably will not change frequently. But the way that we want to achieve that strategy may need to change depending on the fluidity in the organization or the environment where the organization is. So quarterly is a good time frame to measure this OKR. The teams are probably measuring theirs on a bi-weekly basis, where they're having, what you call reviews and all of those things.
What if you are in a very highly competitive environment where competition and innovation is rapid?
Yes. So for those kind of organizations, you want to say something?
No.
For those kind of organizations, for those kind of
Is there a problem?
for those kind of organization, okay, I think so. So for those kind of organization, they may want to vary the frequency. They may want to check it maybe on a monthly basis because of the speed of change and all of those things. But a standard can be like quarterly. Also, at times, the change that they may need to implement may not impact a particular KR, it may just impact an objective that is aligned with that KR. So monthly basis for those people at that level is something, because by the way, the product owner or the person who leads the team at the squad level is constantly prioritizing the work that the team is doing anyways.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bola. I think Ellen has a question. Ellen McDonald, can you please ask the question now?
Yes, thank you. I'm struggling to put this together in my mind, so that's why I couldn't type this out. So this will be a bit raw and I might stumble on myself, but there's two real big things that I'm trying to wrap my head around. So just generally speaking, the idea of strategy is something that I've been trying to wrap my head around for a good like 6 to 7 years. I just don't really truly get it. So parts of this presentation have been kind of, I didn't quite follow, but then the other parts when you got more granular, I was definitely able to follow. And that led me to a question that I'm having with regards to a project that I'm attached to. And it's redesigning a fairly significant piece of the business that's been running the way it has been for many years, well before I even joined the organization. And one of the questions that they were asking was, well, what are indicators of success to people? And so when the question was posed to the group, everyone was like, well, what does success mean? And I think if I'm understanding the presentation and what some of the items that you were bringing up, I feel like part of what you're describing is that it's before you can look at to what indicators of success are, you have to clearly define what you want your outcomes to be. So
Yes.
by asking people, what is your definition of success or what are indicators of success, the people don't understand what we're trying to fully try to they have a big picture, like this isn't working and it hasn't been working for a long time and we're needing to fix it. And at the same time, they're being asked, well, what is it going to look like when we know we made improvements? And I feel like, is that am I kind of connecting the dots correctly based on what I understood, that because we're not asking, what is our end goal? Not necessarily end goal, but what are the smaller goals that we can achieve along the larger process? Because a larger process takes 2 or 3 years to get from end to end. But there are things that people can do along the way that you can look at to say, what's the objective when we get to this stage? And what's the objective at this stage? Am I understanding that correctly?
Absolutely. And the project or the scenario that you just described is a perfect example of where OKR can help. That initiative that you're working on is part of the big picture of solving a 3-year problem. But how do we know that we are solving those 3-year problems? We will have key results that we want to see. And each of the key results will be achieved by implementing some initiatives or projects.
Okay.
It's not one thing that you will do that will move that 3-year problem. It's probably a number of things, and those things will have a period of time. Some will be done in Q1, some will be done in Q2. So when you are thinking of the project or the initiative to implement in Q1, you want to ensure that that initiative will deliver a particular result in Q1 that will help you towards addressing that 3-year problem.
So then somehow I need to convince the project manager that instead of throwing this question out there, maybe we should start asking people to provide their input as to what they see as measurable, smaller chunks of how can we chunk this down to smaller pieces, like you said, to a quarterly basis?
Yes.
And then solve for that.
Exactly.
And then, okay. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. Thank you very much for allowing me to kind of talk this out to see if I was making the connections. This was really helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Bola, I want to say thank you so much on behalf of the leadership of IBA Nova Scotia. This has been insightful, not just for those in the strategy level, but for every strata of the organization, right to the operational level. At least we've learned something. If you're not a manager, if you're not a director, you still have something to discuss with your managers and directors on ways to ensure that what you are doing aligns with what the organization wants. So thank you so much, Bola.